Let me ask you one question. Have you ever received your salary, looked at your bank account a week later and wondered, where did all my money go? If someone doubled your salary tomorrow, would your life really change? Or would you simply spend more and still end up waiting for the next paycheck? Today's story is about a young man named Michael, a supermarket attendant who believed his small salary could never make him successful. He thought rich people became rich because they earned more, until one painful moment changed the way he looked at money forever. Before I begin, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because on this channel we share powerful life stories that teach lessons about discipline, financial wisdom, hope, and the choices that can completely change a person's future. And this story may change the way you look at your next paycheck. Deep inside a peaceful little town lived a young man named Michael. Michael was 24 years old. He wasn't lazy. He woke up early every morning, put on his supermarket uniform, walked almost 40 minutes to work, spent the entire day arranging products on shelves, helping customers, carrying heavy boxes, cleaning aisles, standing on his feet from morning until evening. By the time he reached home, his legs ached, his back hurt, his shirt was soaked with sweat. Yet after all that hard work, his salary was barely enough to survive. Sometimes he laughed with his coworkers and said, "We're not working for money anymore, we're just working for food." Everyone laughed, but deep inside, they all knew it was true. Michael rented a tiny single room. The roof leaked whenever heavy rain came. His old mattress lay directly on the floor. The small fan barely worked. Some nights he skipped dinner just to make sure he had enough money for transport to work the next morning. Life wasn't easy, but Michael had one habit that made it all even worse. Every month, the day his salary arrived, he felt rich. His friends would immediately call him, "Michael, we're going out tonight. Come on, you only live once." Without thinking, Michael joined them. They went to clubs, bought expensive drinks, ordered food they couldn't really afford, took photos pretending life was perfect. Sometimes Michael even bought new shoes or expensive clothes just so nobody would think he was poor. For a few hours, he felt important, successful, like everyone else. But 1 week later, reality returned. His wallet was empty, his account was empty, his kitchen was empty. He would quietly count the days until the next salary again and again and again. One afternoon, as he walked home from work, he passed a small restaurant. The smell of roasted chicken filled the air. His stomach growled loudly. He checked his pocket. Only enough money remained for a loaf of bread. He stood there for several seconds watching other people enjoy meals he couldn't afford. Then he quietly walked away. That night he lay awake staring at the ceiling. He whispered to himself, "I'm working every single day, so why does my life never change?" The following month, the exact same thing happened. Salary, clubbing, shopping, eating out, empty wallet, waiting for payday. His life had become a circle that never ended. One Saturday evening, Michael was walking through his neighborhood after work. The sun was beginning to set. Children were playing outside. People sat in front of their houses talking. As he passed one rental house, he suddenly heard shouting. A landlord stood outside the gate. His face was filled with anger. A frightened tenant stood beside two small bags containing everything his family owned. The landlord shouted, "I've given you enough time. You've been working every day. So where is my rent? If you can't pay, get out of my house or go and build your own." The man's wife began crying. Their little daughter held tightly onto her mother's dress. The tenant lowered his head. "I'll pay next month." The landlord shook his head. "I've heard that every month. You work, but you never plan. Leave." Michael stood silently on the side of the road. He couldn't move. For some reason, those words didn't sound like they were meant only for the tenant. They felt like they were spoken directly to him. You work, but you never plan. He looked down at his own worn shoes, then toward the tiny room he rented only a few streets away. What if one day I'm standing exactly where that man is? That thought terrified him. For the first time, Michael realized something. It wasn't only his salary keeping him poor, it was what he did after receiving it. The next morning, instead of sleeping late, Michael walked to the town library. He had never been inside before. Rows of books surrounded him. Quiet people sat reading. He walked slowly through the shelves until one title caught his attention: How to Build Wealth on a Small Income. He borrowed the book, took it home, and began reading. Michael sat quietly on the edge of his old mattress, the book resting in his hands. The room was silent except for the sound of the old fan struggling to spin. He opened the first page again and began reading more carefully. Every chapter felt as if someone had been secretly watching his life. One sentence stood out: "The habit of saving is more valuable than the amount you save." Michael closed the book for a moment. He looked around his tiny room, the empty shelves, the worn-out shoes, the unpaid bills. For the first time, he understood that his future wasn't controlled by his salary, it was controlled by his daily choices. The next payday arrived. As soon as Michael received his salary, his phone started ringing. His friends were already making plans. "Michael, we're meeting at our usual place tonight. Don't disappoint us." Michael looked at the money in his hand. He smiled and replied, "Maybe another time." His friends laughed. "You're becoming boring." Michael didn't argue. Instead, he walked to the local market. He bought rice, beans, vegetables, cooking oil, and a small notebook. That notebook became the most valuable thing he owned. Every evening before going to bed, Michael wrote down every dollar he spent. At first, it felt strange. Some days he was embarrassed to see how much money disappeared on things he didn't even remember buying. But slowly, his spending began to change. One weekend, while his friends were posting pictures from expensive restaurants, Michael stayed home learning new skills on his old second-hand phone. He watched videos about budgeting, personal finance, small business ideas, and successful people who had started with almost nothing. Each lesson gave him a little more hope. Months passed. His savings grew little by little. It wasn't a fortune, but it was the first time in his life that money was staying with him instead of disappearing. One afternoon, his supermarket manager noticed something different. "Michael," he said, "you've changed. You work harder than anyone else. You never complain. And customers always ask for you." A few weeks later, Michael received a small promotion. His salary increased slightly. Years earlier, he would have celebrated by spending every extra dollar. This time, he did something different. He invested the extra money into a small side business selling household products after work. The beginning was difficult. Some days he sold nothing. Some days people laughed at him. Others ignored him completely. But Michael remembered another lesson from the book. Success belongs to those who continue after disappointment. So he kept going, little by little. Customers returned. Word spread. His side business slowly began earning more than he expected. One evening, while counting the day's earnings, Michael smiled quietly. Not because he had become rich, but because for the first time in his life, his money was working for him, instead of disappearing from him. He looked out of the window and whispered, "This is only the beginning."